Now, Indonesia is a very popular travel destination, maybe even too popular, but how is it like to live there retired? It has those images of those gorgeous ancient temples, lush rice fields, and smiley locals, all making it a comfortable and welcoming place for foreigners to live. And there's also no denying that Indonesia offers an amazing standard of living. And moving to Indonesia offers that chance to experience a decent standard of living at a fraction of the cost of an average Western life. There is a pleasant weather, abundant nature, fresh air, delicious healthy food, and a laid-back pace of existence. Hello everyone, this is Ronan Blue, and today's topic would be on the cost of living in Indonesia in 2022. Now, this guide for Indonesia are for those that may be thinking of moving there, perhaps even next year. It could be for work or just as a retiree. It'll cover all of the costs of living in Indonesia. So it'll cover everything from cost of food, housing, healthcare expenses, and some of the less heard about. So let's just jump right into the specifics coming now. Now, first off, people don't generally move to Indonesia to make that big money, and it generally attracts people with their own means. Those who are innovative business owners, retirees that register for the retirement program they have, and digital nomads who come to make money online. Because the cost of living, for example, in Bali are relatively low, it can be a great option. It's an affordable place to live, and you don't need those deeper pockets, and retirees are still able to enjoy a lavish lifestyle on a relatively small budget. Now, surprisingly, Indonesia has a huge population of over 270 million people, so you can almost imagine the vastness of possibilities available to you across the country that give you that choice of your dream spot to live. You can even find a quiet place in the middle of a beautiful forest, and even find a secluded beachfront residence if you enjoy your space next to that turquoise water. You even have that choice to choose that action-packed lifestyle as well at major cities like Jakarta, Surabaya, Bandung, or Bali. Of course, it goes without saying that the cost of living in Indonesia can and will vary depending on an endless set of variables. Some people say they can live there for $500 USD per month, whereas others manage to spend $3,000. But when you start getting a little more specific when looking at the actual rankings of where Indonesia stands for cost of living, many actually look to the World Cost of Living Index. It makes sense, I suppose, but it's an index that measures the relative cost of living between different countries that's all based on a range of different goods and services, where you'll understand how affordable a retirement location is compared to where you're watching this vlog from. But looking at this listing deeper, you'll find that Indonesia sits just at the 42nd most affordable nation out of 138 countries listed. And it has a cost of living index of 37.44. Yeah, that sounds pretty specific. So what this number actually means is that it's slightly cheaper than countries like Argentina, Vietnam, Ecuador, Philippines, and South Africa, and is slightly more expensive than Mexico, Bolivia, Peru, and Kenya. But whether you want to use this as an absolute benchmark is really up to you. But this is what it is from a worldly standard. So that mathematically specific number for Indonesia, 37.44, when compared to the United States, is 71.92, which actually makes the United States the 112th most affordable nation in the world. So from that perspective, Indonesia is about twice as affordable as the United States. And yes, I know it seems all mathematical, but that's how it is. We all know that people tend to categorize things, even costs, just so they can see a direct comparison between things. And in this case, countries, and it's still certainly just one perspective. Now, this next method might sound even ridiculous, but some people even use what's called the Big Mac Index. So this one is pretty straightforward, where you actually buy a Big Mac in the United States, then buy one in Indonesia to see what the difference would be in pricing based on the exchange rate or the purchasing power parity. So if you walk into McDonald's in Indonesia, it's about $2.96 for a Big Mac and about $5.66 in the United States. So with that difference, it means the Indonesian rupiah is 52.3% undervalued. So you'd rather get a Big Mac in Indonesia, obviously. But steering away from the math comparison, let's talk about a bit easier of a topic, and that would involve Indonesian food. Now, many say that one of the best things people live for is the food. You'll find the street food everywhere, a wide variety of the traditional stuff and Southeast Asian dishes to offer. And what's great is that many choose to just eat out because it's just too hot to cook for themselves at home. But if you prefer to cook at home, you'd be excited to hear that the fruit, vegetables, meat, and poultry are all very affordable, making it easy to enjoy a nutritious and delicious diet. A simple meal at an inexpensive restaurant could be as low as $1.80 USD. Now, a 3-course meal mid-range restaurant for 2 people could be about $14 USD. And a McDonald's combo meal on average would be about $3.50 USD. Now, groceries are cheaper as well. We'd list them all out, but too many to note. But altogether, the average monthly food cost for a couple would be about $307 USD per month. But keep in mind that areas inhabited by foreigners tend to be more costly, so it always pays to get that bike and ride around to seek out the cheapest of supermarkets. And also it's good to note that local produce is generally affordable, but imported goods, pasta and cheese as examples, are actually far more expensive than in Europe and the United States. So there could be some variables in the living costs of eating out or eating in. It all depends on your appetite, but it definitely won't be killing your wallet. Like mentioned earlier, you'll find that many of the locals never cook their own food and either eat out or order in for every single meal. It may seem pricey, but in moderation, you can still fit it into your $300 a month food budgeting. Now, restaurant costs do fluctuate widely as they do anywhere else. You can find cheap warungs, stalls that do platefuls of local food for a few dollars. And you can also find expensive Western style places that charge $10 for a pizza and everything in between. And for your transportation, purchasing a new vehicle is pretty expensive compared to the United States, and many just choose the inexpensive secondhand cars. Now, looking at the new Hondas, you might be spending about $22,000 to $40,000 USD for one of them. But the secondhand cars can cost as little as $2,000. And 1 liter of gasoline would be about 62 cents USD. And you have the option to take public transport as well. And here are the breakdown of the costs. You can pause the video if you like. But you'll find that the expats that stay for a longer duration actually rent bikes, being the most convenient and cost-effective way to get around. Now, bike rental costs vary depending on what kind of model you get and how long you agree to take it for and how hard you negotiate. It's all about haggling. And if you factor in petrol, it actually turns out to be pretty cheap. But just make sure you don't damage the bike, or you'll most likely or definitely need to pay for the damages. So really the only way to keep your transportation costs low, especially if you're looking to live in Indonesia longer term, would be to get that scooter. Although it could be considered dangerous, so taking lessons before coming is highly recommended. You then could simply get an international driving permit, usually for a whole year, and you can start driving around Indonesia. Now, for the pricing of a scooter, it's about $60 to $100 per month for a standard bike to rent. And interesting enough, the longer you rent it, the cheaper the deals usually are. But overall, the ownership of one would probably be the cheapest option in the long run, especially if you're under the Kitas program, where you can look to buy a new bike or even consider secondhand and get a discount being a foreigner. So now I guess we should talk about the most biggest expense of any place in the world, and that would be the cost of housing and utilities. Now, before even starting this, it's fair to say that overall it's still very affordable compared to the United States. It really depends on what you're looking for. A room in a shared house could work out for you. That's a lot cheaper than renting out an entire villa. So if this is the lifestyle you don't mind, then you need to work out if you want to share property or if you want your own privacy. It all depends on your specific situation, of course. Whether you're moving in with a family or a partner, a place of your own is probably the best. And solo travelers may welcome the company that comes with living in a shared house. But there are actually many popular areas that have suburbs and satellite villages that are a lot cheaper as well. And you'll find that most of the property rental websites in Indonesia tend to focus on short-term holiday rentals and aren't necessarily the best place to look for long-term places. The best way to find rental property is to get on the ground or scooter and start looking for those rent signs. Now, Facebook groups such as Ubab Rental or Kuta Villas are good starting places as well. But you should also keep in mind that many are run by Westerners who are effectively subletting properties that they actually don't own themselves, and you often get a better deal if you go straight to the source of the rental property. So here are the average prices of villas you can find. Pause the video if you like. But when you first arrive, the best place to start would be with Airbnb, just temporarily, while you find some medium or long-term accommodation. There are those hostels as well, but be careful of your stuff. And also to make mention when you do decide on a place, in most of the cases, the bills are included in the price. But this isn't always the case. But just like any place on this planet, the cost of housing varies widely in Indonesia based on the quality of the property and its location. Now, living in a central area in a large apartment in the heart of the largest city, you'll definitely be paying way more than living in a remote location in the middle of a jungle. So here are the average pricing of apartments located in a major city. Pause the video if you like. But rental prices for a house in a location like Jakarta range from $1,000 per month to $10,000 per month for a luxurious property. But for us regular people, you can still rent the fully furnished 3-bedroom apartment in Kuta for as little as $500 per month. Now, when it comes to buying property, foreigners can't buy houses or land in Indonesia, but they are able to buy extremely long leases. And when it comes to basic monthly utility for an apartment, the average would be around $73 USD per month. And a basic monthly payment for a home would be about $106 USD per month. And internet would be around $32 per month. Now, looking at the average yearly salary for jobs in Indonesia, it's about $13,500 a year. So roughly about $1,120 USD per month. But this varies based on location. So you'll find in major cities, like Jakarta as an example, it's more than $15,000 a year. But skilled workers can earn much more. So this could maybe give you an idea of how much you would need yourself compared to a local to live in Indonesia. Now on to the topic of healthcare, another point you definitely have to look at. The hospitals and medical facilities in the largest cities are modern, but are often understaffed and underfunded. And if you're a non-resident living in Indonesia, you actually fall into the category where you won't have access to government-funded healthcare. You'll need to pay for your care out of your own pocket. Now you'll find that most of the expats purchase their own private health insurance just to make sure they have access to the best facilities so they could afford their medical bills. And to note, to receive a retiree visa, one of the qualifications is that you'll need to get private health care. But the general cost for visiting a hospital would be around $24 to $56 for a standard consultation, and about $137 to $250 for a home visit. But keep in mind that the healthcare standards, for example in Bali, are not world class, and if you have a need for something serious, it's actually best to go elsewhere like nearby Singapore, Malaysia, or Thailand. So if you do need healthcare in Indonesia, then you need to pay for it out of your own pocket. And the cost will vary depending on what exactly it is you need, but as a rule, it may work out cost effective to have some kind of private health insurance policy in place. Now, Indonesia isn't dangerous, but things could still go wrong, like scooter crashes, surfing accidents, and some kind of tropical illness that do happen to both tourists and expats alike. Now, expats aren't covered under the Indonesian Universal Healthcare System. So this means that while you can be treated in the local hospitals, you'll need to pay upfront. and then pay it after if you have private healthcare. But if you're with working kitas, your company will likely have medical insurance for you. And if you're on the retirement kitas, proof of health insurance will be required by law before moving to Bali anyways. Now let's talk about the big T, the taxes. Now when it comes to the taxes, it will all vary based on whether you're a citizen or not. Now there's an income tax where expats are considered tax residents if they spend more than 183 days in Indonesia in any 12-month period or continually earn income in Indonesia for a long period. And when you're actually declared a tax resident, you'll need to start paying a flat rate of 20% tax on all Indonesian-sourced income. And if you don't have a tax identification number, the tax rates for withholding tax on employment income are increased by 20%. And expats who make capital gains on assets in Indonesia will also have to pay capital gains tax as well. It's actually taxed at the same rate as business income and income from employment. But one good thing is that there's actually no VAT tax in Indonesia as well, consumption taxes. So for those that want to retire in Indonesia, there are actually a lot of generous benefits for retirees that move to the country. So listing them off, first off, when you're in the country on a retirement visa, you won't pay any income tax on your pensions. But there is a catch in that if there is any interest that accumulates on those payments, they'll be taxed at 20%, just like ordinary income. Now, this one might be important to note as well. Now, when it comes to inheritance laws in Indonesia, you'll find that it's close to how the laws are in the United States. For example, if you happen to die while married, your spouse will receive your assets. Now, if you don't have a spouse, the inheritance will be given to your closest living relative or disposed of according to your last will and testament. But in Indonesia, if an expat is married to an Indonesian national and the Indonesian partner passes away, their family would be eligible to receive up to 50% of your combined assets. But some expats who try to avoid this set up a company to hold their assets. So the extended family doesn't have a strong claim if one partner happens to pass away. A prenuptial agreement can also be useful to avoid these difficult situations as well. But enough of this serious stuff. Let's talk about something a little more lighter. Now for entertainment, there's a lot of options for you. There's always the beaches, day spas, or the meditation retreats. But this is all on the assumption that you're not planning on moving to Bali just to sit home and watch Netflix, and will probably be more active with something else. The good news is that there's a lot of stuff in Bali, for example, to keep you occupied. There's popular activities like surfing, yoga, hiking, dancing, CrossFit, and there seems to be a massage parlor on almost every corner. And the fantastic thing is, the great outdoors comes free of charge. But you might be wondering what the cost would be for the other activities. Now, if you want to surf, you'll need some gear, or maybe you'll bring your own. You may be renting it or buying it, or you may need to pay for extra lessons. But keep in mind that the various yoga retreats are actually more costly and intense than simply attending drop-in sessions. So with all the choices you have, it's hard to say what your specific cost would be without knowing what you like to do. But here are some of the average costs. Go ahead and pause the vlog. But if you happen to be more of an active type, there are of course the national parks to stretch your legs out, with all the walking trails that are available for you. And it can be also assumed that if you're into Indonesia, then you'll also be interested in all of the water activities to enjoy, like scuba diving, kayaking, fishing, surfing, and more. But in terms of cost for some of the things just outside of your door, you'll be spending around $32 a month for a monthly gym pass and about $5 to go to the movies to check out the international releases. So what I'm trying to do here is to cover all of the costs that you'll most likely face when you move to Indonesia. There's the different types of visas you can choose from in Indonesia as well, all of course coming with different fees. And you'll definitely need to choose the right visas if you're planning on staying for a while. For example, if you're planning to stay in Bali for 2 months or less, you can stay on a 2-month Indonesian tourist visa. And this could be registered as soon as you arrive at the airport. And a 2-month tourist visa costs about $35 at the airport. And then after that, you'll need to formally register the extension at a later date. But here are some of the costs you'll face with the visas. Pause the video if you like. But for most of you planning on retiring to Indonesia, you'll likely be applying for a retirement visa. And here are some of the points you'd need to meet, all noted over the Indonesian website. So to break it down, there's the tourist visa, which will allow you to remain for 60 days. But keep in mind, you're not allowed to work. And some people in retirement want to work a part-time job. But if you happen to make your living as a digital nomad, you need to bear in mind that working online is technically violating the terms of your visa. But for longer stays in Indonesia, you should also look at the social and business single entry visa option. This allows you to actually remain in Bali for up to 180 days, half a year, and costs about $300. Now for the retirement visa, you'll need the following points. Pause the video if you like. So far I've covered quite a bit about the cost of living in Indonesia, but the question still comes down to how much does it actually cost to live comfortably in Indonesia? So from some of the points discussed, the cost of living in Indonesia is pretty low. And that's already understood. So it's possible to live comfortably on a surprisingly small amount of cash. You'll find claims that a single person can actually live comfortably on about $900 a month, and a family of 4 would be able to live comfortably for $2,000 a month. But this also really depends greatly on where you live in Indonesia. Now, if you're living in a regional area, costs would be low, while living in Jakarta would be much more expensive. But as mentioned earlier, the retiree visa, to obtain a retirement visa, you only need an income of roughly $1,520 per month, or a savings of at least $18,270 USD. So the analysis of the Indonesian government knows that this amount would be enough to live comfortably in most parts of Indonesia. A retired couple could live a life of luxury in a location like Bali if they had an income of about $1,900 or more per month. But the cost of living really depends on the individual's lifestyle, and overall, it's fair to say that about $1,400 per month would be the average for most couples. So for this, you'll be eating out almost every day with lots of fresh fruit and vegetables at home, be able to travel to countries nearby, even have a housekeeper to keep everything clean, so a very comfortable lifestyle overall. But to further dissect the cost of living in Indonesia, let's look at some of the separate cities out there, starting with Jakarta. Now, being the capital, Jakarta has become the most expensive living expenses city in Indonesia. But you can pretty much find almost everything you need for living. Now, living in the city, it has a consumer index price, bringing in the mathematics, of about 7.5 million. So from the math, living in this city has a higher price above the average. So to live in Jakarta, the minimum estimate would be at least about $4.5 million or $310 up to $8,552 every month for the average local Indonesian. So keep this in mind as well, using it as a benchmark for the other locations' monthly cost comparison to the other coming cities I will discuss based on a local Indonesian. Jayapura. Now, this city would be the second most expensive city in Indonesia after Jakarta. Now, it's noticeably true that they are having some issues when it comes to growing some of their basic needs for foods like vegetables. They actually have to import their foods by plane from other areas, so this is why some say that the cost of food is more than the average in Indonesia, just because everything has to be brought in by plane. So the average cost of living is of a higher rate than you might think, even expensive there, but still cheaper using the previous benchmark of Jakarta. Ternate. Now, this city is located on an island and also faces the same problem as Jayapura does. Access to get some basic needs for food in the city becomes more expensive because it has to be brought in from the outside. But not only are the basic needs for food a little on the pricier side, another expense such as transportation, technology, and entertainment also comes at a higher rate as well. And the last city to talk about would be Batam. Now this is another interesting island city strategically located. It's considered interesting because of its strategic location being near Singapore and Malaysia, and since ancient times, the city was actually a center of import from other countries. So this is what makes this city a bit more expensive to live in as well, not only for its food, but for its entertainment as well. But overall, some say in comparison to other countries in Southeast Asia, the cost of living in Indonesia on average is higher. And the reason being is that many of the cities are on separate islands where the land is too poor to grow their own food and everything has to be brought in by plane from elsewhere. The cost of food include the transportation costs it took to bring it there. But overall, if you look back at the benchmark discussed of Jakarta for the average local, it's still very much affordable for an expat from the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and Australia, or Europe as a whole. Now, if you happen to have children, and some of you might not, this section might not matter to you, but moving to Indonesia with school-aged kids, you'll need to think about their education. The regular schools in Indonesia are probably not a suitable option, even if they agree to accept your kids. It'll probably be in your best interest to find a private or international school to send your children to. Private schools are never cheap, and in Indonesia, it's not an exception. Fees range from around $8,000 to $20,000 USD per student per term. Now let's talk about some other costs, the hidden ones, specifically for Indonesia. Now there are always going to be those unexpected costs that you'll never really budget for. There might be a situation where you need to fly back to your home right away to attend a possible funeral or take care of some important matter. Now, flights booked at a short notice are expensive, and flying from Indonesia back to the United States in a hurry is expensive. And it could range from a good $500 to $1,000 per person. Another hidden cost would be of some of the technology products sold. They're actually more expensive, some items to be twice the cost compared to where you're watching this vlog from. So it's always a good idea to always have an emergency fund for those days you really need something, just in case a few $1,000s in savings before making the move to Indonesia. So to bring it all together, here's a breakdown of the cost of living in Indonesia discussed so far that everyone will be facing while choosing to live there. A meal at an inexpensive restaurant would be $1.73 between $1.10 and $3.60 USD. A meal for two people at a mid-range restaurant for a 3-course meal would be $14 between $8 and $34 USD. Basic utilities for an apartment would be $67 between $34 and $148 USD per month. The internet would be $31 between $20 and $62 USD per month. An apartment 1-bedroom in city center would be $265 between $138 and $552 USD per month. An apartment 1-bedroom outside a city center would be $167 between $69 and $345 USD per month. An apartment 3 bedrooms in city center would be $656 between $345 and $1,380 USD per month. An apartment 3 bedrooms outside a city center would be $388 between $207 and $828 USD per month. Now for those who have come all the way here, if you're curious, let's talk about where most of the expats are choosing to live as a bonus section. Of course, Bali comes to mind. Now Bali is a fairly small island and it actually has really far distances between the various towns, cities, and villages of interest that are spread out. Canggu, Now this area has become super popular with surfers, hipsters, and digital nomads. There's a shopping, restaurants, and hostels that are favored by the expats. Because of its popularity, the property prices have actually increased, and it's hard to actually find those bargains. Most of the digital nomads are actually house sharing because the villas are usually on the luxurious side. Ubud. Now this is a more inland area away from the beaches. There's more green and is more of a spiritual location with temples and monuments at every corner. Now there's a lot of different neighborhoods in Ubud as well, making it easy to choose a location to live. There are meditation workshops and popular bars as well. It's a place where you can work comfortably as a digital nomad during the day and relax by night. You can generally find decent rentals a lot cheaper than you can at the beaches. Uluwatu. Now this area has dramatic beaches that are also popular for surfing. There are many travelers on short-term visits, but it's not yet quite as established yet as long-term stayers. But the internet wouldn't be the best. But if you're there just to surf, it's a great place to be. It's a quiet and popular spot with the waves, white beaches, and beautiful scenery and fascinating culture. Sanura. Now here is a place in the south of Bali that is a great place for families and people who stay longer term. Now it's more expensive than other areas, but offers a high standard of living. But if you're looking to retire in Indonesia, it's possible, as discussed earlier, to move to Bali to make your pension fund dreams come true. But you'll need to apply for the Retirement Kita's temporary residence permit, which is valid for 1 year and could be extended up to 5 years. You can then apply for full residency. Now Bali is known for its slow and steady lifestyle, and it's clear to see why this change of pace would be so perfect for those looking to unwind after their working life. Now the Indonesian government wants your money to be put into their economy, to share in its paradise. But in the end, the most common reasons why retirees move to Indonesia would be the following: the affordability, warm and sunny climates, the beaches and the abundant wildlife, friendly people, relaxed way of life, incredible food, favorable taxation regime, and just being close to locations such as Australia, New Zealand, China, Singapore, Vietnam, Thailand, and Japan. Well, tell me what you think of the cost of living in Indonesia in 2022 in the comment section below. If you like this vlog, please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell for more of my common content here. Thank you for watching my vlog. Be free, gain wealth, and travel far.